So let's look at the hinge joint in detail. Okay, well more specifically let's look at the way the joints get loaded up. Okay. If we load up a hinge, then we're going to talk about hinges like this, okay? It's just going to move like this way. Okay. So we actually have two surfaces against each other. We all know what a hinge looks like. Effectively our body is built with that same sort of physicality, but it's just the construction details are different. Okay, so it's designed to move this sort of action. Okay. In a normal hinge that we actually build as humans, what do we do through the centre line?
Put a pin.
We usually put a pin. Okay. Human body doesn't have a pin through there. Okay, so it actually has surfaces that mate to each other for it to roll around, and at top and bottom it generally has some sort of ligament to hold it closed. Okay, so what do we know about door hinges? Which is the best way to load a door?
With a metal block?
No. Which direction do we want to load the movement?
Across
along the hinge direction. Okay, so we actually want the hinge to move. So if I have a hinge here, I actually want the loading to be in the direction of the hinge movement. Okay, this is very, very important. I do not want to load the movement sideways. Okay, I do not want my hinge to go.
That hurts.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that hurts big time. Okay, which brings us to issue number one, which we'll get to in a minute. Oh, that's the other thing. Remember I talked about the body's design so the bits slide over each other? Okay. There's one little trick to that we actually have in the human body that we don't generally have in a human hinge unless they're really well engineered. All of our hinges have a stop. Dink. There's a maximum point, and there is a point where you actually physically retards the movement.
Continue the movement.
Okay, there is no way you can go beyond that stop.
Well, under your own muscular steam.
Under your own muscular steam, okay, in the usual motion of movement, you can't get past that stop. It's designed to stop that hinge opening any further. So there is a stop to stop it coming open. Okay? It makes sense when you think about how do we move the body. It's the muscles, okay? So it's actually harder to stop an opening hinge if you're actually relying on the stretching of the other muscles. Whereas if you have a built-in stop, you have to stop where you need it to stop. Okay? So, we talked about joint loading. Okay. Issue number one. We see this all the time in fencing.
Turn your knee out.
Okay.
Something about just hurting my eyes, please stop.
Okay.
I know what it
Quick
does to my knee.
What is wrong with this situation right here?
All the weight's pushing the knee sideways, which doesn't want to bend that way.
Yeah. Okay.
You're
So
loading
the
up
way to think about it is which way am I loading the knee?
sideways.
Against the
And
hinge.
angle
Well,
like
both.
that, so you're having the
Yeah.
pivot
Okay. So
go
which
back.
is the direction of my movement?
Down.
In that
Okay.
direction.
My body is moving this way, especially if I'm coming forward. But my foot and knee is pointing in which direction? So my hinge is going that way, and my movement's going this way. You see the issue here?
Oh yeah.
Okay. This is probably rule number one for any fencing instructor.
Turn your knee out.
Turn your knee out, yes! So much so that I actually got christened the Guildmaster of the Apocalypse to turn your knee out. I teach a lot of beginners. Okay. And a lot of that
However, if you say
specific...
turn your knee out to a line of experienced fencers, every single one of them will twitch.
Yes. And a lot of this becomes very, very common when you actually see people move in passing steps because they will do this. Okay? It's all because they're actually turning with the hips. Okay, so as soon as you see this is bad. Okay, the other one is you will see someone passing out like this. Oh, Oh, the cringe! Okay, so what that means is if I want to pass this direction, okay, so notice now all of a sudden my knee, foot, my hinge is loaded in the direction I want it to move. This is good. Okay, this is where we want it to be. So actually loading the hinge in the right direction is very, very good for us.
Remember that the reason that people do that is because all the time that you are standing walking, which you've done all your life and do almost all the time you're upright, toe, knee, hips. This means that when you turn in a way that you never turn normally, like this, your knee wants to be under your hip and your toe wants to be under your hip, and you're saying here and it's saying here. It's one of, it's a natural thing to do, is that you have to train out of it to do this. And that's especially true with the passing step, because a step is a step is a step, and your body is expecting to step like that, because that's how it does it all the time.
Okay, just from a coaching instructor point of view, you really want to stop your students doing this, because all the ligaments and tendons down here at the side of the knee, they're the ones that are probably going to tear. And if they tear or they go, A, it's expensive surgery to repair it, and B, they never actually heal properly.
Also, even...
Okay, this is when you look at joint replacements. Hip replacements are easy. Knee replacements are the ones that give people grief for the rest of their life.
Can I get you to do that straight on at the camera, just so that, for the folks at home?
That. Okay. This bad, this good.
Also, you might not tear something, but you are continually damaging your knee. And so people can do that for a very long time before the knee starts to degrade, but degrade it will.
Some people longer than others, depending on their stability or strength.
Basically, you get differential wear on the cartilage. And so when bone starts grinding on bone, yeah, the cringes on everyone's face. That's brilliant. Okay.
Good thing the camera didn't catch any of that, huh?
Okay.
Now we should demonstrate someone's bone being broken.
Any volunteers?
This is going to hurt. Okay. The second one is elbow. Okay. Let's just do a quick show of hands. Who here has had tennis elbow problems from fencing?
Not from fencing.
I did it.
Okay, who here has had tennis elbow problems?
In the past. Going back a
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, 90% of the time, it's because the weight is not being loaded in the direction of the elbow. Now, at the moment, see how my elbow is pointing down? Okay, even hand in third, it's mostly pointing down. Okay, but you see a lot of people doing this.
Well, actually, that.
Okay, now, everyone with a sword, let's just come out very, very quickly, extend the arm out, pointing the elbow out to the side. Okay, just hold it for 2 seconds and then let it go because I don't want you injuring yourselves. Okay, now, tell me, where were you feeling the pressure on your arm?
Not on the elbow.
Yeah, bottom or top of the elbow, depending on how you actually hold your sword.
Just
Okay.
right in
So
the
what's
elbow
this tell you about this hinge? How's it being loaded?
Down.
It's being loaded downwards by the weight of the sword. Okay, so even in second, we don't actually want to have any bend on that hinge. We don't want the hinge bent. As soon as it starts to bend, that's where we really start to load it. Now, you can probably see that muscle just starting to pop out as soon as I did that. Okay. This is where a lot of the injuries come from, is actually people sort of turning with their elbows sideways instead of turning with the hinge in a direction where it's meant to actually fight against gravity.
This is especially a problem for women who are generously built, and it's how I did mine. In order to clear your breast protection, it's very common to just tilt that elbow, just this much. The amount of tilt of this elbow, there it is pointing down, there's my elbow bone. I was doing that. So my elbow bone is only tilted 5 degrees, if that, and that is what did it.
Okay.
It doesn't
Guys,
take
this
there.
This is something that us as guys actually have a problem with, because when I straighten here, I can't turn my elbow out, whereas a woman can actually turn their elbow out and actually keep their hand in place because of the way.
You can actually see it on. You can see it on mine. So my elbow is here. You put your finger there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That just feels weird.
So now mine as a guy actually moves in rotation, whereas for a lot of women, it actually you don't see that happen.
Yeah, all I have to do is tilt it just that much, and it's difficult to see if you've got loose clothing, like somebody's wearing a puffy shirt, and they've not got anything tight around their arms. It can be difficult for you to realise they've done it. So you need to, you need to teach your people that they've done that. And if you, as I say, if you have generously built women who are using the martial arts breast protectors, really, really be careful that they are keeping their elbow point straight down, because otherwise they'll do what I did.
Now the third type of issue generally with a hinge is injury to the bone stock. As fencers, we don't see that one as much unless we have someone that hyperextends. If I can just grab you, sir, in the middle there. Sure. Just stand there. You're a pal. Actually, no, Josh, you're the pal. Okay.
Official pal.
Okay, it comes from moving outside, trying to throw the rat. Okay, because at this point here, there's the stop, and now they're trying to use the momentum, and I'm actually at this point here. Did you see that snap? Okay. And we'll get into this later. What's actually causing that sort of snapping stop is because a lot of this is because of the way the hand's moving in relation to the shoulders. Okay, so that you can do. You'll notice at this point coming over the top, I'm moving within the realm of my movement of keeping that very slight bend.
And also, when you think about it, when this does impact, you're going to have force going that way, and then force going that way, which in effect is going along the elbow.
Yeah, whereas if I throw it this way, it's actually pushing back on the stop. Okay, so you're hitting here, and then you actually. Okay, so this is part of Newton. Okay, so it's out of period physics, but it actually all physics still applies. Period. Okay, so I'm hitting here, and for every action I have an equal and opposite reaction.
It's going to bend the elbow against.
It's going to bend the elbow against itself. Okay.
Which is not good.
Yeah, it's very not good.
Not once it's hit its stop.
Yeah. It's very, very bad. So loading up your elbow, the three general issues we see is two of them are caused by things being out of alignment. We talked about the knee, which is our first major hinge, and we talked about the elbow, which is our second major hinge. And we also talked about injuries which actually happen with the stop. The knee stop one we usually see when the heel collapses underneath the foot when it collapses on the ground and actually bends back on itself. Oh, the whimpers! It's worth it to hear the whimpers.
Tarek, just a question on holding your hand in second. How does one... So you're saying that when you're holding your hand in second like that, you should be keeping your arm as essentially straight as possible without locking it out? Is that what you're saying? Because if you have a slight bend, you end up loading the elbow?
Correct.
Yep.
Right. Okay. If you've actually got it straight, I'll get into this later when we actually talk about it.
As opposed to archers who turn the elbow the other way so the bowstring doesn't hit it on the way past.
Yeah.
You have to retrain if you're coming from that direction and
But
turn
the
elbow.
The other thing
See,
too
that elbow can rotate there.
The other thing too is with an archer, they're not actually locking it out, they're actually pushing against the bow.
Yeah, but
So
they're
they're
also
not
turning
actually,
back.
so they've actually got compression coming down the arm, which is not creating that.
Yeah, but if they're used to it, they've learnt to turn that elbow point that way. So your hinge now is that way instead of that way.
Yeah.